So, we are starting with a very interesting course on Commerce Gyan. Every small business owner struggles often to understand the basic terminologies of business. What exactly are the different forms of organization? Should I go for registration of a partnership, an LLP, or should I keep it a proprietorship company? What should it be? What are the formalities of the business? And what is the taxation that the government will levy? Are there any concessions that the business can get? So there are multiple questions that come to the mind of a new business owner. So this particular course of organization of commerce is designed specifically for small business owners and for their understanding about simple basic terminologies of business to certain advanced things that the business should know even before you start doing the business. Also, this course of organization of commerce is useful for students who are learning commerce and those people who are interested in polishing their understanding of commerce terminologies. So, what exactly are we going to learn in this particular course of organization of commerce? The first thing is we are going to understand what is the exact meaning of commerce and business as such. Secondly, we will understand what are the different forms of organization. So, should you, as I said, register a proprietorship, a partnership, a company, LLP, what should it be? And what are the benefits attached to each of it? What are the difficulties that a person may face after registration? What are the different formalities they have to actually comply with? So, all these things we are going to understand in this second part. The third thing we are going to understand is the trade, meaning of the word trade in detail. Both we will understand what are the large scale and small scale industries. So their meaning, their definition, the benefits, all this we are going to understand. Now, many a times government also gives their support to different industries. So what are the different schemes that the government actually has come up with? What are the organizations that are actually giving support to different industries? So this is what we are going to take in this fifth part. Then another important thing is there are internal business environments and external business environments that impact it in positive and negative ways, which we need to understand, because without their understanding, we cannot actually come up and go by that particular business in a proper manner. So this is an important part of this course, the internal and the external environments. And finally, we will be taking up the meaning and importance of the business management. So how to actually go about the business management. So this is what we're going to learn in this entire video series of organization of commerce. So today is the first video part which we are going to do, which is talking about the meaning of commerce and business. Now, right from the time we are born till we die, we are engaged in different types of activities. Now, you often find yourself keeping yourself busy in some activities. So let's say, suppose you are cooking at home, or you are maybe cleaning a wardrobe. Even that activity is keeping you busy, isn't it? But we classified these activities into two different types. One part is the activity which keeps you busy without you earning any kind of money. Whereas there are certain activities that you keep yourself busy with and you also earn money against it. So basically, when we are defining the activity which can be classified as business, it is important to understand that it will be based upon whether you earn money or you don't earn money. And we also call these non-money making activities as the non-economic activities, whereas those activities which give you money, which earn money for you, are called as the economic activities. So economic will be the word which is connected to earning money. So suppose you are buying and selling some goods, or let's say suppose even if you're talking of cooking, you have started with a catering business. Then that cooking becomes an economic activity because now you will be charging for the meals. But the same activity, when you perform at home without charging money to your family members, it becomes an activity, but a non-economic activity or a non-money making activity. How are these money making activities classified? Okay, so even there is a classification in the in the money making activity. So how are they classified? The first classification that we have is it is called as business. So what is business? Now business can be in the format of manufacturing, trading, or service. So what is manufacturing? Now you often see industries which make goods. So these goods, these industries which are actually making products will be coming under the classification of manufacturing activities. Some industries don't give any products, but they give you service. So if it is, let's suppose, a hospital where the doctor is treating the patients, so this is kind of a service industry or a service which is provided in the format of business. Then you may also find certain products which are actually traded. You are buying and selling them, but not making them. Like you go to a small grocery shop and buy a maybe a packet of bread. So what are you doing then? You're that activity, the person who is giving you that bread is just taking it from one person and selling it further to the customer, to you, right? So what is happening in this process? There is no making of the bread. The making of the bread has already taken place in the bakery, whereas the person in between is just buying the bread from the bakery and giving you the bread. So what is he doing? He is doing the activity of trading. So this is different from making the product. Making the product will be the manufacturing activity. Trading the product is the middle part. And there is another type or category of business which is in the format of services, service providing. So a lawyer which who provides service, an accounts person who is providing, a chartered accountant is giving consultancy, or a doctor is giving some consulting, providing some service in the format of surgical procedures. All this is classified into business only, but it is under the classification of service. Now, how are these money making activities different? Now, when we are talking of services, there could be some special services also which are classified as profession. So, if you're talking of a service in the format of event management is a generalized service. If you're talking of advertisement services, it is also a service. So, the person is just designing the advertise and giving the service, providing that, charging the amount to the customer for the purpose of designing the advertisement. So, this is also a kind of service. But there are some services which are reclassified into profession. So why is it a profession? Because here you require some kind of qualification to render that service. Without the qualification, you are not allowed to render the service. So this becomes a specific profession. Like if you're talking of a doctor, a chartered accountant, a lawyer, these are specific classified category of services where education, a degree, a qualification plays a role. And once you get that, you become qualified to provide that service. Got it? So that is the profession part. Another methodology of keeping yourself busy in an economic activity, which many people do, is employment. So they act as a salaried employee in an organization. So what are they doing? They're providing their services. They are giving some kind of services, the benefits to the organization by working there, doing that activity, and against that they are charging money. And this is called as the person becomes employed, and the person who is employing will become the employer, and the person who is employed will become the employee. Now we are going to see some definitions just to be more clear on this particular terminology of business. The first definition is of Alfred Sloan. He says the business of business is to produce goods and services at a profit and to do so well that the company grows. So he's not stopping at earning profits. What he says, with this profit taken up together, the company should show growth. So it should grow, it should become bigger. T. Levitt said that the purpose of business is to create a customer and also to retain them. So the purpose of business is to create and keep a customer. So not just that you have a customer coming to you, a person coming to you for business, for buying your goods or services, but he should also be coming again and again. So this is how T. Levitt defined the term business. Andrew C. said that the first man gets the oyster and the second man gets the shell. Now, L.H. Hanley has defined business by saying that the business may be defined as human activities directed towards acquisition or production of wealth through buying and selling of goods. So what is he saying? He's saying business may be defined as human activities. A human does some activities. What are they directed towards? The acquisition or production of wealth. So getting wealth, producing more and more wealth with what methodology? Through the buying and selling of goods. So each one has defined in their own ways, own terminologies, what business means. L.F. Erwick says business is any enterprise engaged in the production and distribution of goods in anticipation of profits. So what is happening here? The enterprise is getting engaged in what? In the production and the distribution of goods. Two things. In what? In the anticipation of profit. So it is doing it with the motivation that I will get some profit. So overall, if you club these definitions, what do you get? The key features of business, if you have to look at, it is to make money, to have the production and sales of goods and services. Third is to create more customers, and finally to take risk to get returns. Now, when we talk about the objectives of business, if business is to said to be having objectives, there will be two classifications. One objective is for their own purpose, for own business purpose, and second objective will be for overall social benefit or for the society. So, if you have to talk of your own business, if you are doing a business, what is your motivation? What is the purpose of you doing the business? One important thing is for the purpose of profit. Second is for the purpose of expansion. Third is for having new products in the market, right? So you will get profit, you will try and expand your business. With expansion, you will want to bring in more products into the market. And finally, you do the business so that you save on costs, right? You save the cost and you grow in terms of business. So overall, the benefit of the business or the purpose of objective of doing business for business is basically profits and growth. Okay. And for the social angle, if you look at the social angle, what happens? Why is business important from the social angle, society's angle? Because you get goods and services, isn't it? You want new products in the market. Every time you want to buy new things, electronic goods, mobile phones, you want new food items coming in the market, you want to experiment with them, isn't it? So all these goods and services are coming in the market every day because the business has the purpose of giving goods and services to the society. Secondly, they have to think of providing quality to the people. So customers, the society in general should get quality products. So if you see, every product is always tried to be bettered as the time passes. So each service, each product is optimized, is bettered, is you can say made more efficient, even in terms of cost, right? So if we look at maybe 20 years back, an electronic product may be more costly than what we get it today. So overall, this is because the quality improvisation and the cost effectiveness is taken care of by the business. Then what does the business importantly do? It is employment. So unless and until there is business in the market, you don't need people to run it. When you start needing people, they get employed, they earn money, and once they earn money, they also spend. So when the spending increases, automatically business growth is again boosted. So it is cyclical. Business creates employment, employment creates money, money creates more demand for products, and finally the demand is again felt by the business, so business grows. So this is like a chain, it's like a cycle which happens in the economy. And finally, when business is giving back to the society, you may have heard of what is CSR. We had one video on CSR also on our channel. So CSR is something where the business gives back to the society and tries to create some welfare activities. So this is also one of the objectives of the business, to give back what it has taken from the society. Now comes an important understanding of the difference between business and profession. Now, we have already discussed a little bit about business and profession. But what I'm going to now do is list out the important things that are connected to a profession. Now, profession is also kind of a service which is rendered. But the important thing here is that profession requires specific qualification. As I told you earlier, without that qualification, you cannot render the service. Like, for example, if you're talking of a lawyer cannot render, he cannot stand in the court of law and argue if he is not qualified and he doesn't hold that certificate of practice. Correct. So profession is a specific qualification. You need specific registrations. You cannot practice that profession without that certification. At the same time, you cannot say, okay, instead of me today, somebody else is going to go for that task. So a doctor who is doing a surgery, he is qualified as a specific practitioner. He cannot outsource that to the nurse and say, okay, you go and do the surgery today. It will be illegal. But if you're talking of other services, like suppose you want a courier to be delivered to the doorstep of a person, so any XYZ person can do that job. That is also a service. This is also a service, but profession needs specific qualification. You could also say professions are one of the elite type of services that are rendered in the market. Now, professionals also have options. They can also work for themselves, like they can have their own practice. At the same time, they can also go and join employment. So they can also be salaried employees. So it's not necessary that once you become a professional, you have to practice on your own. You have to do your own service business in the format of service, rendering of service. It can also be done in the format of employment, right? So this is the key difference. Business is related specifically to goods and services, and those services are not the specialized services. Only specialized services will fall in the head of profession. Okay, what is an employment then, and how is it different? We have already seen employment, but few things, important things to discuss is that when you are working as a salaried employee in any organization, you also need certain qualifications, skills. Some may be skilled, some may be unskilled jobs, but you are bound by a contract there. Very importantly, your relationship with the employer will be like an employer employee. So there is a binding contract, there will be a specific kind of a rule book which is written, unwritten, both, for the purpose of that employment. All right, and a fixed monthly charge will be provided to you. So you're not working as an independent person, you're working under somebody with the instructions of that person only. If we have to classify the various business activities, let's see how we have to do it. The first one is the classification based on nature of activities. What is the nature of activity? Is it primary? Is it secondary? Is it tertiary? What is what is the difference then? Primary activities, if I have to give you examples, it will be like agriculture, forestry, fishing, mining. Now, this same product may also be coming in the secondary part. Raw materials may be used to make the finished goods. And also certain activities like construction would fall in the secondary parts. So, if we have to take the example, let's suppose you have strawberries, which are the primary activity. You are growing strawberries, it's an agricultural activity, primary activity of business. Now, the same strawberry, when processed, this raw material of strawberry processed with sugar and other syrups and everything, and it is made into jams. So, jam will become the secondary activity, making of the jam. Now, tertiary activities are also there. Tertiary activities are more of the service sector. So, generally, when the tertiary activities grow in a particular country, it is said to be good. So, it's a service sector in supportive roles. Next type of classification is based on scope. What is the scope of that particular activity? So, it could be industry, it could be commerce, it could be support to trade. So, let's see examples. If it is industry, it is connected to production of goods. If it is commerce, then it is connected to distribution of goods. So whatever manufacturing has been done, now goods are distributed. And then finally, we will have support to trade in the format of banking, insurance, warehouse, transport. So these are like supportive activities. So if you have to distribute the goods, you need transportation. If you have to pay each other, you need banks. If the goods are damaged, then you will need insurance. So all these are supportive activities to the trade. So scope would define in the format of industry, commerce, and support to trade. Then comes the classification based on ownership. Then comes the classification which is based on ownership. Now, this is important because there could be private ownerships, there could be government ownerships, there could be combination of both, right? Or there could be a separate sector like cooperative societies. So, if it is privately owned, like suppose I start with a particular business, it's a private business. You start your own maybe sole proprietorship business activity. You start a coffee shop, let's say. So that coffee shop owner is a private owner. He has the own free will how the business has to be done, of course, within the framework of the government guidelines and rules. But basic, you can say, freedom of doing the business is rested with that person. So it's a private ownership. Whereas there are public sectors where government owns that particular business. So we find many oil and gas refineries, many kind of uh, petrol pumps come under the companies like those which are owned by the government. So government holds their ownership in those companies, and that's why they're called as public sector. There is a difference between private limited and public limited companies and public sector. Don't mix the two. Private sector is the one where ownership rests with private owners. Public sector is the one where ownership rests with the government. Then, under the private sector, there could be companies which are private limited companies and public limited companies. These are different. We will see that later. But right now, remember, a public limited company and a public sector company are two different types. Fine. Now coming to PPPs. PPPs are what? Public private partnerships. So the government partners with private players, private companies, comes together for a partnership, maybe like a temporary arrangement, like construction of a road. So a private company ties up with the government, constructs the highway, charges toll for a certain time frame. We know this, right? And then withdraws. So all this would be like arrangements like PPPs, public-private partnerships. And finally, we have what is cooperative societies. What are cooperative societies? It is basically like the members coming together for the purpose of doing a particular activity for the benefit of all the members. So, the best example of a cooperative society in India is like Amul. Amul is a cooperative society formed for the purpose of betterment of the dairy farmers. Coming to the goods, right? Goods and services which are provided by these particular organizations where the classification of the business is done as consumer goods, capital goods, and services. So, what are these consumer goods? Like you and me consume daily a number of goods, right? From our toothbrush, toothpaste, soaps, shampoos, right? Even food items, chips, sodas, drinks, whatever. So, all these are consumer goods, the one which are demanded by the last part of the entire supply chain. We can say the consumed products. So these are the consumer goods. The companies, the organizations which make these consumer goods will be classified based on that type of activity. Then comes the capital goods. Now there are machineries which are made. So if you are buying a packet of chips, it requires production, manufacturing of the chips, correct? For that purpose, you need machineries. So if that machinery is supplied, then this machinery will come under the head of capital goods. Capital goods, basic investment made in the business. But the company supplying this particular product will be a company supplying capital goods, whereas a company supplying chips will be the company supplying consumer goods. Got it? So there's a difference. The basic machinery supplier and the product made with that machinery, the supplier of that product. So these are the two types. And finally, as we have discussed earlier, it is services. So goods will be primarily classified into consumer goods, capital goods. Whereas we also have the third one, which is services. This is the end of the first part that we learned in this entire part of organization of commerce, the understanding of what we can call as business, trade, right, and profession. So we have understood the basic concept of it. So hope you had the clarity today of this. And next, what we are going to discuss, we are going to discuss a very important topic which is connected to the different forms of organization. So if you are registering a business, whether I should go for a partnership firm, a proprietorship, a company, an LLP, what else, right? And what are the pros and cons of each? This is what we are going to see in the next part of the video of Organization of Commerce course on this channel of Commerce Gyan India with me, Priyanka.